You can either do one of two things. You could try and change the world, or you can follow the pattern that got you into that situation in the first place.
And really what I wanted to talk to you about today after it was your background, where you came from, and how you got where you are. This podcast is all about people that have done that. And I was interested in your background specifically. It looked like your father had died early, and that is kind of what pushed you into the fitness industry. But give us that background, Marc, understanding that you're CEO of multiple companies, an entrepreneur at heart. You got kids, which I want to hear about. I love that. And I love that people can be successful and have children. That's the thing that I probably, as an entrepreneur who has bought and sold a dozen companies over the years, hear the most is, Jerry, where's the time? How do you have home life and still do all of these things? And I say that it's possible. So I want to get some feedback on you, but give us feedback on that from you. But just give us give a little bio and give us some background on how you got where you are today.
Well, so, my father had type 2 diabetes. He basically ate himself to death. Type 2 diabetes is mostly a lifestyle disease. It's something where you literally eat yourself into sickness. And you didn't hear about type 2 diabetes before the 70s, right? It wasn't a thing. People were active. Now people are not only inactive, but we have these delicious processed foods, ultra processed food diets. They generally don't bode well for overall health. So I got to watch my dad literally eat himself into the grave, which was hard to see. My mom had a drug problem, and a substance abuse problem, which, led to me. You can either do one of two things. You could try and change the world, or you can follow the pattern that got you into that situation in the first place. For example, alcoholic parents are more likely to have alcoholic children. And that's why I've done videos. I'm against parents going out and drinking in front of their kids at soccer tournaments. Mm-hmm. And that's gotten me in a lot of issues with the fellow soccer parents on my kids' teams. It's because I'm a very principled person, and, we're there for our kids, and I don't think that's a good example. And of course, it's Brentwood, so everybody has their opinions. So anyway, nonetheless, I got into health and fitness because I want to make a difference. I wanted to educate people on health and fitness. And as I went through college, I got a job at Valley Total Fitness, which has since went bankrupt, but I was a personal training coordinator, and I was able to manage a few gyms. From there, I went and worked at Weeder Publications, which is health and fitness. I had no intention of going into fitness after college. I was a marketing man. I just want to do marketing stuff. I want to work for an ad agency. I want to sell stuff. And I'm like, yeah, this is going to be great. But working for the fitness magazines, I took time and I mentored under some really smart science guys and some really smart business people, including Joe Weider himself, who basically invented the fitness industry, or at least popularized it. Obviously there's people before them. You had you had a lot of different things. So nonetheless, after I was pretty much topped out at Weeder Publications, I took that position with Instone, and I got fired. And that was fun. That was fascinating. But it was.
Wait a minute. You can't just. I was going to say, you can't just roll over that one. How'd that happen?
Well, there's certain people who need to work for themselves, and certain people who are just workers.
Yeah, sure.
At that point, I realized that I can't work with idiots. And the CEO, his name was John Arnold, and the CMO, his name was Vince Andrich. They were just weak little yes men, and they just did what the investment group wanted them to do. And so basically they wanted to get, let me just give one instance. Like, they wanted $1 million PO from GNC. At that point, GNC was pay on scan, which means consignment. But if it doesn't sell, they send it back and they give you a penalty fee. So if you get $1 million PO, it's going to be $1.3 million that you have to pay them to get it back. So not only do not get paid, they ended up going bankrupt. But, I'd stand up at meetings and I'd be like, this is a bad idea. And a lot of people don't like when a 24-year-old kid says that their idea is a bad idea. Because I had the title, I was getting a good salary, and they basically pushed me out. But the launch of the company was successful, and I will take full credit for that launch. After they used me for the launch, they fired me. And then they fabricated stories about me and told to the industry, like I was in meetings yelling out assless chaps. And I'm like, guys, that never happened. But the stories got back to me. And that's why I say loud and proud, it was John Arnold and Vince Andrich. I will put their names out there because they're dicks. And right now I have more money than both of them, and I don't like them. I still don't like them. So, so not afraid to drop names. And if they want to sue me for slander, they can go right ahead. So anyway.
And was that, had you thought about being an entrepreneur prior to that, or was that kind of the catalyst for you thinking, I hate working for dicks?
You said the first curse word. So anyway, so at the time, my wife is extremely talented. Like, my wife's better than me at everything. And I'm not afraid to say that, but she had a good job. Fresh out of college, she's a VP of marketing. She's crushing it, right? So she's making at that time, like, we're making good money, but we'd live on half of what we made, because you never know, right? And we had a house that was in California that had appreciated. And I was actually like, I'm going to become a cop because I want to do something that can help people. I wanted to do something to help people, because if you notice, like, where I've gone in my career, like, my focus, and people might not see that, is helping people reach their goals. But being a cop, I felt I could make a difference in my community. So I started researching out. That time I lived in the LA area, like LAPD and all this. And then I realized, you know what? I want to start a supplement company, because I didn't like where the industry was at the time. They're using a lot of things called proprietary blends, where they don't tell you what's in the product. They just give you a big number for everything in it. And I didn't like that. So from that point on, I started Scivation. And the reason I was able to do that is because my wife made good money and we could live off of her salary. That's why I always tell people to live within their means. I'm kind of like, the area, Dave Ramsey's kind of our financial god out here. And it was kind of like a Ramsey approach, right? Like, just we had our 6 months of savings. We had all this. We had a decent investment, and we just went out on a limb and started a company and ended up moving it to North Carolina. But I had no intention of ever being a business owner. I thought I'd be a good employee. Like, my dad was an employee. My mom is an immigrant. Immigrants are more likely to start businesses. So my mom actually owned a cookie store. So I knew how much it sucked to own a business. And that's why I didn't want to do it. I remember my mom literally working through the night to fill an order for a restaurant from the cookie store, and I remember the long hours. I remember her hands would literally be just torn up from working, from mixing dough, from all this. And so I'm like, man, I don't want it. She got carpal tunnel from it. I'm like, I don't want any of that smoke. But then I realized that, as someone with ADHD who speaks his mind, and Weeder worked out really well. I did really well at the magazines. My old boss, his name was Elia Clark. His job was to keep me away from HR, because I would just say things that came to my mind. But I don't do well as an employee. I do very well as a strength coach, because I know the head coach is in charge. I'm very good at kind of knowing my role and place and whatever. But when it comes to running a business, if something's wrong, I'm going to be like, this is wrong. And unfortunately, there's a lot of leaders out there who are weak, who don't want employees who speak up. My company is full of employees who will tell me that I suck, that my ideas are garbage. And that's why our company works. Because if you just hire a bunch of yes men, what's the point? Why are you hiring people?